This conference will now be recorded.
So, welcome back, guys, on OIM Day 8. And I hope whatever we covered till now, we covered on the very first day what are the basics of OIM, right? In the very first session, what is identity and access management, what is cryptography. Then, in upcoming session, we covered what is OIM, what are the features of OIM, like easy deployment. We covered the concept of DMU, like deployment manager utility. We covered the simplified UI customization, where the web-based customization OIM follows. Then we covered the concept of framework, application development framework, because the OIM pages are formed in application development framework. And we also discussed model view architecture, MVC architecture also. Okay, then also we covered VOU object concept, which is used in OIM a lot. And after that, covering these things, we covered a few other things like rule of URL, how the URLs are formed. Then we discussed like other features of OIM like flexibility and all. Then we went to the topic like basic terminology. We
Hello.
covered what is user, what is account. Yeah, Rajesh, let me finish
Ah,
first.
okay.
Uh, then we covered OIM accounts, like types of OIM account, orphan account. In case of orphan account, in OIM, user was never there. That's it. If you remember this, reverse case, in case of rogue account, user was there but deleted from OIM, but it is still in AD. Service account is nothing but admin account. Trusted source is someone where you just blindly believe on the data. You can't update trusted source. That's the main definition. Okay. And target source you can update. You are not blindly believing. Then we covered reconciliation. Reconciliation means something coming towards the OIM, data come to the OIM is called reconciliation. Okay. The process of feeding data to OIM is called reconciliation. Okay, that is and we covered two types of reconciliation is there. Trusted source reconciliation, when the data is coming towards the OIM from the trusted source, it's called trusted reconciliation. In case of trusted reconciliation, 2 points were there. First point was user, if coming to the trusted source, new user, the same user will be created to OIM. If existing user modified to the trusted source, it is modified to OIM. But in case of target reconciliation, if the new user come to the target, it will not add it to the OIM. But if the existing user is there in both places and we modify the things, it will update there. So till now we had covered this. Yeah, Rajesh, you are telling me something.
Bro, in OIM, MVC flow is different from Java MVC flow, right?
Where?
In OIM MVC flow, it's different from Java MVC flow, right?
Which MBC flow you are talking about? I
Uh,
didn't got your
you
point.
say as you discussed my MVC flow, MVC.
I discuss MBC architecture, right? Like VO
Yeah, yeah,
object and all. Yes,
yeah. That is different from Java, right?
that is a part of Java, right? How it could be different?
Yeah, but in case of Java, in the middle, there are web services or application services are came. That, but here ADF is came, right?
Is depend what you are using, right? It's see, there is Java, there is Linux, all concepts are same everywhere, but it depend how another application is using that concept. You understood?
Okay,
Okay,
okay, okay.
so that's the one thing we covered so far. Okay, anybody any doubt till here?
No,
Okay, fine. Okay, so let me start today's agenda, and it will be a little complex today because we are going to go deep inside on that. So see, let me start. So see, for example, there are three accounts. Now everybody is very sure, right? What is user, what is account? Account is not someone physical. User is physical entity. Account is created on behalf of user. Okay. So what happens? Say for an example, there are three accounts in the user in AD. Let's say this is account number one. Let me write so you will understand. Let's say this is account number one. This is the first account. This is account number two. This is account number two. This is the second account. And say there is a account number three, say third account. So let's say in AD we have three accounts. Okay, in AD we have three accounts. Accounts are nothing, like for example, this is a Facebook server. In the Facebook server you have three people created their account. Okay, like for example, account first account is like maybe XYZ person. Second account is like John Doe, like that something. Okay, so I am referring with account this thing. So say in the AD target there are 3 accounts. So what these accounts are actually, whenever these account, for example this account 1 belong to a guy, for example, whose name is Ravi. Okay, Ravi has account 1. So when Ravi want to access any application, for say application 1, I'm talking about general scenario, application 1 Ravi want to access. So in that moment of time, this application 1 uses AD for the authentication. So when Ravi want to use this application, immediately this application will throw a login page, because it's a protected application. Ravi have to fill the form, that is login form, and when he will fill the form, he have to provide his account related details. Means if he don't have any AD account, if we are providing some information, it will be not validated. Okay, so that moment of time, Ravi have to fill the form, like a login form, and that data will be go there in the AD, and the checked. If it is validated, Ravi is able to use that application. So I'm talking first on behalf of what is AD and all. So let's come back to the main agenda. So say we have 3 accounts, okay, of 3 different people. Okay, now let's say for example, for a moment, let's say there are 2 accounts initially. Okay, let's say there were 2 accounts at the beginning phase. Okay, suddenly a new user came to AD. Like I'm just talking about, these guys are AD team. Okay, somebody came and directly told, hey, I just want you to add me to the AD. It's possible, right? So you added him to the AD directly. I'm just talking about what are the things. Okay, so right now, what is the thing? Let me talk about target recon. We are talking about target recon now. Target recon, I'm going a more depth in target recon, because sometime the issue comes that and need a very deep level of analysis. So for example, yesterday session I told you can add user directly to the AD as well. So say I newly created this user. So say account 1 is newly created. I have to mention, I'm mentioning here, account 1 is newly created. Account 1 is newly created. Somebody created this account. Okay, account 2 already existed account. So let's say I modified this account. I modified this account. Okay, and let's say account 3 I want to delete. I will show all possible case. Okay, what could be the all possibility in OIM operations. Okay, so let's say I deleted this account. So as I told these accounts, account 1 just added, right? Let's say before addition there were only 2 users in OIM, right? When account 1 was not added. Let's say the scenario when account 1 was not there. Let's say in scenario when account 1 was not there, only 2 accounts were there in AD and OIM. Now account 1 got added. Okay, account 1 got added. So how the things will happen in internal level, yesterday I shown brief level how the things will happen in internal level. Let's see. So generally what happens is a very very important concept. When you go and debug the things internally as a developer, so that moment of time you should be aware of recon engines, like how the things worked at the internal level, rather than just knowing the concept. So let's say generally in the middle of that there is a recon engine. See what happens. See, this account data is modified. His name was, for example, Rajesh, and I change his name from Rajesh to Suresh. So that is a modification, right? What is deletion? I just deleted this account. Deletion means you set the status as revoke. It's called deletion. So when you put the deletion, this account should be deleted from here. You modified the information. This information should be modified Rajesh to Suresh to this guy in OIM. So in this way target reconciliation will work. Okay, so now what we are going to do generally what happens, very very important things and terminology, whatever the things I am performing here, creating the user, modifying the user in the target. AD is what? Target, right? So just note it down in the copy, it's target. Okay, so whatever the things I am doing in the target, that is creating a user, modifying a user, deleting a user, in OIM, these things is, if you go for develop the things, you should be aware of each activity internally what it is called. So creating the user, modifying the user, deleting the user, these things are called recon event in case of OIM. Okay, so generally when you go and set multiple parameter and you configure the product, that moment of time you come across a terminology recon event. Okay, so generally the issue will happen. For example, you try to recon the user, you added one user here, and After that sync will happen, right? After that sync will happen, and after the sync the user should need to be created. Maybe some issue came and the user didn't create it. So how you will fix? You will go and check the logs, right? So when you went and try to figure out and check the logs, you find recon event have issue, like they will tell recon event not generated successfully. So that moment of time people don't understand what is mean by recon event not generated successfully. So if they want to tell, like maybe you created the user, or maybe you modified the user and deleted the user, for that purpose whatever you did, that activity not happened properly, that is called recon event. So what is recon event? Recon event means whatever you do in target, like creating the user, okay, modifying the user, and that will affect your OIM. Okay, so that is called event. Event is nothing but doing this activity, creating one user, modifying the user, deleting a user. These activity are together called an event. Okay, whatever changes you do is called event. Okay, now you did this thing, I mean, this is event, and because of this event what is going to happen? Reconciliation is going to happen, right? Means you created one user in AD and you want this user should go in OIM. So that is reconciliation for OIM, right? Means something go comes to OIM is called reconciliation, right? Some OIM get money like that, so a salary. So something coming to the OIM is called reconciliation. So the thing is, you are doing some event, and based on that one recon will be generated and reconciliation will be happen. That is called recon event. So you should be very sure what is recon event when you go for debugging the things. So when this event happens, means what happens, you just for example modified his email ID from abc@gmail.com, you made xyz@gmail.com. So what happens, that moment of time this changes propagated, right? For example, it's abc@gmail.com, you modify it to xyz@gmail.com. So these things from AD to OIM propagates, right? So for example, today I'm giving the class, whatever the class I'm giving, that videos are propagated through internet, through the cables, through the Wi-Fi, through the signals from my PC to your PC, right? So there is a communication medium between me and you. Definitely whatever the things changes happen, that changes propagate through one medium in the middle. That medium is called recon engine. Okay, there is an engine in the middle, that medium is called recon engine. So we are going to discuss about that today. It's very important for debugging purpose. So there is something, there is a guy in the middle, that guy is called nothing but the recon engine. This guy is called recon engine. In the middle, the things which are happening here, that is happened through engine, this propagate through the engine, those events is called recon engine. So in the middle there is someone, there is an engine which by which this changes got propagated. These changes, for example deleting the user, for example, or modifying xyabc@gmail.com to xyggmail.com, immediately these changes propagate through recon engine and do the action like that. You create the user, immediately this information will be sent to OIM, like user have to be created in OIM. This information is sent through recon engine. So you should be very sure what is recon engine. Okay, and what is recon event? Okay, recon event means anything. Event means first of all any change you do, you can write it like event means any change you do is called event. So change means anything you do, whatever it like it you change the system. Adding a user will change this system feature, right? Change the snapshot of the system. For example, there is no user, for example abc, this user was not added. So right now if I take a snapshot, it will look like this. When the user got added, the snapshot got changed. Means event is something which changed the snapshot. Okay, this moment of time the snapshot is abc@gmail.com. If I will change xyz@gmail.com, the snapshot get changed, right? So if event is something will change the snapshots, right? So this is one thing. Now second thing is event. This is event, and this is events are propagated to OIM through recon engine. Till here any doubt in this picture?
Hello.
Yeah, Sandeep.
Yes. So recon event is only when a particular user is modified or added in AD, not in OIM.
No, it's in any place. I told now event is something which change the system snapshot. Today whatever it is. For example, today you can see it is in AD, tomorrow the event could be from OIM side also. OIM user, for example, username I edited just for example, or email I edited directly in OIM side, so that thing should be replicated as provisioning to this side. So that is also an event, right? Event is something which change a snapshot.
That means if user is created in OIM, and that is also considered as the recon event.
Sorry, can you repeat? It's a
If
background noise from someone. Is something from you or somebody else?
Okay. So
Okay.
I was saying that if a user is created or modified in OIM, that is also called as the recon event, right?
No, definitely no. If a user is here, just you tell me, there is a user, say this is a user in OIM. I change his first name from Sanjit to Manjit. This thing will replicate where? This thing is
So
first called event. Changing something is called event. And because of that change, this change will replicate which place? You tell me. In ID, right? So
uh,
something going out of this, will you call it reconciliation or provisioning?
provisioning.
So of course it is not recon event, right? It is a provisioning event.
Okay, so event means creating or deleting, and depend upon the situation, it is called as a recon event or provisioning event.
Exactly. Event means something which change the snapshot. Just think like that. Today you are like this is a photo. This is a snapshot. Whatever, for example, there is one guy just joined with you. So snapshot got changed, right? So that is called an event, means doing something, and that snapshot will change if and only if the user is.
or what
Let,
that is
let
called
me
as
complete.
recon.
Let me complete first. So for example, this snapshot will change if and only if there is few activities. Okay, what kind of activity? For example, you are taking your selfie, you take it in one pose, right? You just taken another pose, so will it be the equal photo? Of course not, it is a different photo, right? If the photo, when the photo will change, if some new attribute got added in your photo, means your place got changed or some guy joined you in the photo, you understand? So in case of OIM, the things, the attributes, the in case of OIM, this snapshot will change when you try to modify something in the existing account. For example, you just deleted, right? For example, you deleted this account from OIM, snapshot got changed. For example, you just deleted this account, see, snapshot got changed, right? Then not same photo which was before few moment, right? So you understood my point, that is called event. Okay.
Hmm. Yes. So that is called
So
event, and if a
yes,
user is created
if
in
this event, if this event is impacting, for example, this event you did, you just modified abc@gmail.com to xyz@gmail.com, and because of that you seen immediately abc@gmail.com converted to xyz@gmail.com mean OIM as well. So that moment of time for OIM, what kind of event it will be? It's a recon event for OIM.
yes, yes. So and that would be the complete responsibility of the recon engine to update that information in
So,
OIM, right?
so whatever the things you will change, these things will propagate through OIM towards OIM, or maybe from OIM, whatever it could be. These all propagation from one place to other place happened via Recon engine. Okay.
Okay. So
So
and if
here in Recon engine, you can, as a developer, now see, you, if you are very good in Recon engine part, I mean in the middle, so you can set the things. For example, you set a rule here. What you can set, if like you written a condition, if user entry newly created to AD and the user is also not there in OIM, create the user. This kind of logic you can write. So what it will check, it will check, for example, you are writing a logic for trusted source. Say this is a target source. What you want, if you want to add the user, this user should not be created in OIM. So how you write the logic? If user got added, if user is got added in AD and it is not there in OIM, immediately not create the user and send a message, user is not there in OIM, can't link the user. Okay, there is nobody to link it. Okay. Or you write a logic, and you can also add and if there is already, if this user, whatever he's here like ABC, equal to the user of OIM, and if something is modified, attribute, for example attr1 is modified with a value v1 to v2, immediately place this value to attr1 of this user in OIM. You understood my point?
yes,
So
So
these
bas-
kind of things you can play in. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if any changes that will happen to AD, and the Recon engine will be like establish the communication, or changes go through that Recon engine to the OIM. And if the
Yes.
same change happen to OIM, and that should be reflected on AD, then I think it should be called as the not Recon engine, but and the other one,
Provisioning it is,
provisioning
right?
engine, provisioning
Okay,
engine.
so yeah, so that's the thing. Say for example, generally we right now we are talking about, as you can topic you can see target recon. Okay, so my focus will be the whatever changes will be done will not be done in OIM. Otherwise, it will not be called target recon. At least it will not call recon, because whatever changes you will do in OIM, that changes will replicate some other places, and it will not call recon. It will call provisioning, right?
Provisioning, yes.
So you, I hope you got my point.
Yes, yes, sure.
Okay, so whatever the changes you will do, whatever the changes you will do here, that changes should go here from here. So today we are going to discuss about. So yeah, Pati, you were telling me something, or anybody any doubt want to share something?
Yeah, whatever the changes we can modify a username, whatever it may be, bro, that will be going through by Recon engine. The
Exactly,
process is
that
going
should
on.
be, exactly,
Yeah,
that should be go
yeah,
by Recon engine only.
Recon engine.
Yes.
That is the main thing now. You can going on
Yes.
this.
Yeah, so in
Yeah,
the Recon engine, actually whatever the thing is there, we will play with that as a developer.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Rajesh.
Yeah, bro. By using if else conditions, we can develop the logic now, bro.
No, 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 of course not. This much enterprise application you can't use if else, but I just told what things can be
Why?
used.
Because user is already exit means we can
Yeah, the
write a.
concept will be like if else, but the manner of writing will be different. But yeah,
Okay.
concept will be like if else only. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Okay, so let's say, let's now we are very much familiar here. So let's say, let me take an example, a change made on target system account. Okay, it could be creation of an target account, modification of a target account, deletion of a target account. All changes flow to OIM via Recon engine. Okay, so how the things will happen? How the things will happen? Okay, so say some changes. For example, what I did some changes. Okay, let me do some changes. So for say, for say this guy name was Sanjit. Okay, in OIM. Okay, and what it is called, can you tell me? This is not account in OIM exactly, it is a user in OIM, and the same thing is called account in other places, right? So let's say this username is Sanjit, and here the Sanjit is known as account ACC2. Okay, and I can put same name as well, Sanjit also, but this Sanjit refer account Sanjit, and this Sanjit referred user Sanjit. So for that moment of time, I'm giving different names so that you will not confuse. So Sanjit created one account, like my name is Sanjit, I can create a Facebook account with name Shan, right? So that moment of time, my account name will be Shan, but my username will, my real identification will be Sanjit. Okay, so this is, user is something with real information, account is something based on the user information. You create one uh, like profile in any target, is called account. So okay, this is one point. So for example, when I created here, let's say for example, his first name was also Sanjit, and for example, his here the username was like S Prasad, like something. Okay, S Prasad is my user login. Here in case my user login is account 2. Okay, say his first name was Sanjit and his first name is Sanjit. Not let confuse those things that much level, otherwise you will lose the thing. So let's say his first name is Sanjit here also and here also. Yesterday I shown you, right? Yesterday I shown you here. Like for example, you can say this guy have a name Ram. For example, yesterday I saw an example Nirmala, right? So this person Nirmala, for example, this person Nirmala have her name and all. So right now I'm not able to connect because my servers are not running now. So the thing is, his name is Ram, mail ID is this. So for example, his UID means user ID is Ram underscore test. But in OIM, maybe his name is, yesterday you seen his login ID is Ram 2, and while creating I given the name Ram test. So when he log into the OIM, he will give the login ID Ram2, while login to AD he will give the login ID Ram underscore test. Different login IDs. Okay, so Okay, that's a different part. Skip it and just come to the main thing. So for example, Sanjit is the first name of this guy in OIM, and Sanjit is the again first name of this guy in AD as well. So what I did, I changed his name from Sanjit to say Manjit, let's say. Okay, I change his name. So immediately what will happen, the changes will propagate towards this, we know, Recon engine, and will replicate. So what are the steps involved so that these things will change in OIM? That's a very important thing. So first of all, when you change this thing, Sanjit to Manjit, immediately event will generated. What kind of event it is, can anybody will tell? It is a modify event, right? Because you modified some attribute. So step one will be, what will happen, immediately you change Sanjit to Manjit and hit save in AD side. So that moment of time, a recon will be generated, a recon event say recon event 1 is generated. Just I giving a name for this event, okay, is generated. Now this event got generated, okay, I just given one name for understanding purpose, okay. So what happens, you change the name from Sanjit to Manjit, modification event generated, and I say I'm giving the name to this event as recon event 1. Okay, so what happens, immediately a recon event will be generated. Where it will generate, this recon event will generate inside the recon engine. You should be very very sure. Okay, it will not generate in AD. How it could generate in AD is a target, it not deal with recon engine have the logics to generate the recon, because it is connected to the AD and OIM both. So whenever some changes will be happen, the same it will replicate immediately in recon engine inside there. So let's say recon engine have this recon event here, recon event 1 immediately come. I'm just talking about one user. In real life scenario, n numbers of event generated in multiple parallelly. Okay, so let's say I change the name from Sanjit to Manjit. Immediately step 1 recon event will be generated inside the recon engine. Okay, after that, this is the very very first step. Okay, now second step recon engine will check this. Okay, checking will happen. So it will check recon engine. I'm denoting recon engine with RE. Okay, checks recon event 1. I'm just telling the logic, how the things are built inside. So first of all, if you know the concept, then building is very very easy. Okay, so this recon engine will check this recon event. Let me put eng so you will understand. So this recon engine will check recon event 1. So what it will check, that's the very important question. It will check two things, and let me talk about the first check. So there will be the first check from the recon event side. What is the check? What is the check? What, who will check? Recon engine will check. What it will check? Recon event it will check. So recon engine check whether this recon event, let me draw it, whether this recon event, okay, let me draw like this. So this is a recon engine. So it will check this recon event, has has mandatory attribute or not. Attribute or not, I will explain. Or not. Okay, how it will be done, I will explain, just be with me. So it will check, it will have mandatory attribute or not. That's the check it will do. Mandatory attribute means, like for example, when you create a user in OIM, that moment of time you have to give some attribute. Like say yesterday I shown, right now it's not running because my server is down. So what happens, when a user you will create in OIM or any places, you have to fill a form, right? You have to give first name, last name, email ID, user login, like that. So many information you are filling. So it's up to developer want to set which one as the mandatory attribute. Like for example, when you fill a form, a bank form or any application form, any kind of form, there are few attributes while filling the form, like say email ID or phone number. When you are not provide, you will not able to submit the form, right? So these are called mandatory attribute that you have to submit. Otherwise, if you're not providing the attribute, you, for example, in Facebook, when you go and try to create the user, you are not providing email ID, that user will be not able to create. It will give you an error. Can you please provide the email ID or phone number, like that? So these are called mandatory attribute. If you will not provide, the user will be not created in the Facebook, right? So you have to provide that mandatory attribute. Okay, so it's up to developer what are the attributes you want to choose as a mandatory attribute. Okay, for example, email, login, generally login id, email id, like last name, and these things are mandatory attribute. There are many more, but generally these things are mandatory attribute. So say the very first check it will do, it will check like he have the mandatory attribute or not. Okay, mandatory attribute in the sense, for example, login id, email id, if say abc@gmail.com is attached with him or not. Okay, these checks he will do. Okay, now he will do this kind of check, mandatory attribute or not. So there will be two outcome. There are two possible outcome of this check. Either he have the mandatory attribute or he may not have the mandatory attribute. So there are two outcome of this check. The first outcome is yes, he have the mandatory attribute, and the second outcome, he don't have the mandatory attribute. Means, for example, the user is here but he don't have the email id, he don't have the user login detail. Okay, in ad side, okay, for example, in OIM he have the user email id, he have the user login detail. For example, when he was created, that moment of time, here also he had the user id or email id, but maybe somebody deleted it, now he don't have, like that, consider like that. So for example, there are two cases, he have and he don't have. So for example, the user details are modified here, same thing should go here, right? So that moment of time, before the things will go from here to here, recon engine will check this guy, means before linking these two users, recon engine link this to user based on mandatory attributes, like email address equal to email address. So for example, email address is the mandatory field. Okay, user login is, login means username, these are mandatory field. So it will see email address equal to email address, username equal to username, just for example, means same mandatory attribute values are there, means this is the same user. So this is the way the linking will happen, and after that modification will progress. But what happens, I don't have any mandatory attribute, right? So how this OIM will come to know to link with which user, right? For example, this user don't have mandatory attribute like email id. So how I will come to know this user will, for example, Sanjit, there will be n number of Sanjit, right? But how OIM will be sure, how the recon engine will be sure which Sanjit I am talking about? Say in a company there are 50 Sanjit. Okay, so I'm changed Sanjit to Manjit, which Sanjit should be modified, that should be decided based on a unique id. That is, that could be your mandatory field. Okay, so that unique id should be checked. For example, in this case, email id is a unique id. So he will check, okay, Sanjit is modified, so he will see 50 Sanjits are there. Again he will check what is the mandatory attribute, what is the unique id. For example, its email id is unique in any company. So he found this guy is the real one. Then mandatory attributes are equal and found, then only he will link the user. So this is a very first important thing. Now, so for example, there would be a case he found the mandatory attribute or not. If not found, he will give an error. If OIM, if Recon engine will not found mandatory attribute, so that moment of time Recon engine will give you one error. Like it will give you an error, like an notification sent to admin. Notification send to admin means admin guy will know like somebody is trying to create one account but not successful, and maybe he will check the log, he will get this account, he will try to modify but it is not coming. This account he tried to modify, it's not coming, he will get an error log, and the log when he read properly he will find because mandatory attribute was missing is written in the log. So immediately as an OIM engineer you will understand, right, what you have to do. You have to go in the AD, log into the AD server, check what is the mandatory fields value is there, create the same field with the value, and again try to do the reconciliation. So this moment of time OIM will see there is a mandatory attribute. The first thing, if mandatory attribute is not there, it will not create the user, whatever the modification will happen, means this event will be an unsuccessful event. Event will generate, but this event will terminate as status failed. Okay, this is a failed event, it will not a success event. Okay, this event will be not processed again. definitely it will generate, though its mandatory attribute is there or not. Just keep eyes on my word, because many people think when there is no mandatory attribute as a developer, and they start thinking in different way, that is a wrong. For example, I seen many developers, like what they do, for example, Sanjit is modified to Manjit, so immediately this, for example, Sanjit is modified to Manjit and here it is not modified. They come to OIM and they see, hey, it is not modified here. So what they told, they check the mandatory attribute. After that they tell, hey, recon event is not generated, because they tell their concept like this: recon event not generated because the mandatory attribute is missing. 100% wrong. Recon event generated, but it failed. Recon event was definitely it will generate. Anything you do here is an event. You change the name, immediately an event will generate, okay, in recon engine. So for example, in this case, you are changing the things in AD side, definitely it will impact OIM side, so this event will be a recon event. Okay, so the recon event will generate though you have a mandatory attribute or no. Okay, for example, so recon event generated, but the thing was, after recon engine went and tried to check his checks, validation checks it is called. So when he tried to do some validation from his side, he found there is, in this event there are lots of information is kept. In this event he will first check, like all the user information copy will actually go here. So he will check first thing, what are the mandatory attribute is passed or not. In this event he will found there is no mandatory attribute, so immediately it will give an error. See, mandatory attribute is not there, how I will link, bro? Just tell me how I link, my friend. Just tell me, boss, how I will link, to whom I will link. Please provide me something unique so that I will link. So that is very, very important to understand in every level how the things will work. So first level is when there is no mandatory attribute. Second thing, what happens if there is a mandatory attribute? So that moment of time when mandatory attribute is there, yeah, your OIM will happily tell, process the things, process the changes, right? So after that the process will come into picture. Process the changes, whatever the changes are there, please process it. You can process the changes. Okay, you can process the changes. So how these changes will be processed, now let me explain. Till now I explain whatever things you will change, that things changes will be replicated to OIM through recon engine, and whatever change you do, immediately recon event will generate. Just don't confuse yourself about thinking provisioning event a lot of variety. No, it is a enterprise based product. It is not something where you do your testing. Okay, use case scenario are fixed almost in all the company. So in any company you will not find a case where the provisioning event you are dealing with, you will always deal with a recon event. So use cases are very fixed in this product. So for example, so that's why if you remember the things is very helpful for you. So for example, recon event will generate, okay, whatever the changes you will do, and that changes recon event engine will check. First check mandatory attribute or not. Say check is passed, it have the mandatory attribute. So what next? What are the things it will check? Immediately it will see like mandatory fields are there. There are two things will be applied. Okay, there are two things will be applied. First of all is called matching rule, okay, and recon action rule. Okay, so if the process is successful, after that there will be two subsequent steps. Okay, the first step will be matching rule. If you use your common sense, you will understand this is a correct way actually. So the first, again a sub step, if the recon event have mandatory attribute, immediately some sub step will be taken. The sub step, the first step will be matching rule. And I'm not talking this matching rule because I like to use the word matching rule. I am talking this words which is used in OIM. It's not my own words. I'm not the creator of this word matching rule. It's in inside OIM. We deal with the matching rule. We like that. So I will show you how we will deal with that. So there is something called matching rule. So what happens when the attribute is there? Matching rule again come into the picture. Now this guy, what this will do? This recon engine see, okay, mandatory attribute is there. So what this guy will do, it will compare the mandatory attribute values in both the side. For example, here the email is, just say for this case, email is the mandatory attribute in both the side. Okay, so it found mandatory attribute is there, okay, in both the side. Since mandatory attribute is there, check is passed. Now it's going to process the thing. How it will process the thing? It will process the thing in two steps. First step, it will check the value of mandatory attribute, means it will match the value using matching rule. In the matching rule, it is written, for example, email address of OIM equal to email address of AD. It will check a rule like that. Means first check will be if mandatory attribute, say the first check will be if in the bracket it's written like that, email address like that equal to present or not. Like for example, like generally we do it by flag booleans, true or false, like that. So for a moment, let me give an example like this. If mandatory attribute is present or not, else not present, throw an error. So he passed the first if mandatory attribute is present, he come inside the if loop, and inside he have to do again few checks. What is the again check? It will check, okay, email address is present. Now next check, value of the email address at OIM side is equals to the value of the email address there. Because see the thing is, this guy whose name is, for example, Abhay, say I did some changes here in his mail ID. His mail ID is, for example, his Sanjit mail ID is sanjit@gmail.com. Here also sanjit@gmail.com. Abhay@gmail.com. What I did, I changed email ID of Abhay from abhay@gmail.com to abhay1@gmail.com. Again, this generate an event. Now what Recon engine will check? Recon engine will check it will have mandatory attribute or not. Yeah, Abhay also have email ID as a mandatory attribute, but do Abhay is the person of concern? Of course not, right? So the thing is, there is n number of accounts have the mandatory attribute, but the account you must link with the correct account, right? So to linking, Abhay email address, Abhay have also email address, Sanjit also have email address, but Abhay email address value is not equal to Sanjit email address value, so we can't link this users with this account. Again, the Recon engine will check next user, like next plus like that. So it will check this guy have the email address equal to him. Okay, so in that case the linking will happen. So the first thing is, the thing is here, so whatever the changes you will do, that will generate an event, and that event is passed through the Recon engine. Recon engine will check this is a mandatory attribute or not, and if the mandatory attribute is there, it will go and check the value of the mandatory attribute is matching with which of the user. Okay, so what kind of thing it will do? It is called matching rule. Okay, so how this matching rule is look like for example, email ID, say in OIM side this attribute is called email ID, and the target side it is called like capital email, like that. So it will check this is, say, in OIM side this attribute. Okay, and how this they will understand this thing, this is inside some mapping we will do, just forget this for now, and this is in AD side just for a moment. Okay, so what they will check, AD side email address. Okay, the attribute name is email. This email will hold sanjit@gmail.com, and in OIM side the attribute is name as email underscore ID. This will also hold the sanjit@gmail.com. So email ID equals to email or not. So yes, if it is equal, that is called matching rule. It should be very sure. Generally in interview people ask, like generally if the error will come, they will give you an error in an interview, and they will tell which step you should go and check. So that moment of time 90% people tell we will go, they know that like they are beginners, so they will tell like, since it's a Recon related issue, we will check in the Recon engine. Yeah, you will check in only in Recon engine, but which part of the Recon engine, right? Matching rule or action rule? So definitely, if this email address is like sanjit@gmail.com, and like for example here it's abhay@gmail.com, and it is got failed, so this failed in matching rule. So that moment of time, if you know where it got failed, why it got failed, so you definitely know where I have to change to create the modification. If it had failed in matching rule, immediately you will check the values, and if it is not equal, you will make it equal manually, and you will again run the recon, and it will happen like that. So first of all, you should be very sure, if you're theoretically very strong where the things are happening, conceptually very strong, so that moment of time you will understand where the things should be changed. This is called matching rule. After that, so there will, in the matching rule, again two cases will be happened. Okay, There are two possibility. Either they will find the matched user, say sanjit@gmail.com, the same mail id will be found in OIM side. So match will be found, right? Match will be found, and no match found. No match found. I am talking about how the product they made, how the Oracle made this product, what the logic they use while creating this product, the product logic I'm talking about. So if no match found, for example, there is no user, for example, in OIM side, only it is in AD side, and I'm trying to modify his email address from Sanjit to his first name from Sanjit to Manjit, but there is no Sanjit here in this site, let's say. So that moment to time it will give error. He will tell, hey boss, there is no user, there is no user in OIM side. Okay, so again it will throw an error. So when the error will come, see, that is a very favorite interview question of the people. When the error will come, so they will give the error, they will see, for example, they told there is a guy whose name is Sanjit in AD side. What I did, I changed his first name from Sanjit to Manjit. A error came. The error was like that: no match found. Where the issue is, immediately the beginners will tell the issue is inside Recon engine. Where is the issue? The issue is inside Recon engine. They tell, it's fine inside the Recon engine, but what? So what they told, like generally they tell like the maybe he have don't have the mandatory attribute. And see, as a beginner, what you will do, for example, you try to recon the user and you get an error, no match found. What you will do, as most of the beginner, they go and try to check, if you have little bit of knowledge, they go and try to check they have a mandatory attribute or not. But my question is, boss, why you are checking he have mandatory attribute or not? Just read the error correctly. The error is itself talking the no match found. If the no match found will come, the guy, the Recon engine is in which step? It is in matching rule step. Means it is in matching rule step if and only if it's already checked mandatory attributes, right, in their side. So don't worry about the mandatory attributes. It is there or not there is not point of concern, because the error is coming in the matching rule. No match found is a part of matching rule. If you get an error in matching rule, definitely you had already passed this mandatory attribute checking. There is mandatory attribute already present. That's why you went to the next step where the value of the mandatory attributes are compared. So just concern about the value, right? Don't concern about the mandatory attribute. So be very sure where you are debugging the error.